To a special edition of Hatfield Currents. This is our annual candidates show. Each year, certain elected positions in town are up for re-election, and this year the contest are two people for one opening on the Board of Assessors, and three people are running for two openings on the school committee. And all of these people were invited to participate on Hatfield Currents. As it turns out, though, our invitations to attend only resulted in just one assessor candidate and just one school committee candidate being here with us today. So before we begin, I just wanted to make it very clear that in no way does the appearance of any of these candidates on Hatfield Currents indicate or imply either an explicit or implicit endorsement of that candidate by myself or Hatfield Currents. I also wanted to note that for those of you who are watching the show prior to Tuesday, May 8th, annual town meeting is Tuesday, May 8th at 7 p.m. at Smith Academy in the gymnasium, so be sure to plan on attending. A week subsequent to town meeting, on Tuesday, May 15th, Election Day will take place. And I believe the polls will be open from 7 in the morning until 7 or 8 at night. I'm not exactly sure which, but nevertheless, most of the day. So please do plan on exercising your right to vote that day, May 15th, and participate in our democracy here in our community, and to make your voices and positions known. That's the way to do it. Our first guest this evening is Mike Poshik. Mike Poshik is one of three people running for the two openings on the school committee. The other candidates for those two openings on the school committee are Anthony and Pamela Novak. And I do believe they are husband and wife. Now, both of them were invited to participate in the show, and both declined. So Mike is here by himself, and I want to welcome him to Hatfield Currents.
Thank you, Mike.
And we'll have a little bit of a discussion here as to the background, his background and his purpose, and his particular thoughts and positions around his candidacy. Just one comment: Mike is an incumbent, and I'm trying to think. How long have you been on the school committee now? One term, two terms?
One term on
the
school committee. Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be 3 years now. You're up 3 years,
yes.
And then you're up for your next term. So, Mike, before we get going, just in case any of the viewers want to contact you, do you want to give out any contact information at all? If they have questions or concerns of you, phone number, email, or it's up to you.
They can call me at home, 247-5995.
Okay, so 247-5995, and you can connect with Mike if you have any questions that you'd like to ask of him prior to the election. So Mike, let's open this up in a few words. Tell us why you're running for school committee, and what your personal experience and training that you have you feel might bring some improvements to the current board, and of which you are a member. So,
well, this as Mike said, this would be my second term. During my first term, I had missed some time due to a long-term illness. So I would like to have another term to be able to get in and continue on the work that I started. As my goals for the school committee and for the Hatfield School Department have always been to make the district better, stronger at the elementary level, stronger at the high school level. I want to see our kids go as far and do the best that they can. I think that in 2012, we're now competing on a global basis, and I think we need to prepare especially our high schoolers for that and for going off into post-secondary, college, and graduate school. And so those are the areas that I've always focused on. The other big area has been back in the late 90s and early 20s here. I was the chairman of the elementary school building committee. So I'm kind of have stayed on as school committee member to kind of shepherd that and watch that building and make sure that that's well taken care of. And also we have, with this Smith Academy building, it's 32 years old, and we're going to have to start looking at this building and looking at improvements that we're going to have to make to this building, and keep, maintenance is very important. Keeping up with keeping this building viable for the community as well as for the school department is very important. So those are pretty much my areas of concern and what I've striven to work for with the school committee.
So you've been on, as you said, you've been on the board now 3 years.
3 years.
Perhaps what you can do is tell some of the viewers that are watching, what is the school committee, what's its function, and what typically does it oversee and do?
Well, the school committee, if you read the state statutes, the school committee essentially deals with the budget, and the school committee hires the superintendent. But in reality, we do a lot more. We're involved with school policy. And there's been a lot of policy changes in the last few years. We're involved with all the regulation that comes from the state education department, which is pretty mind-boggling, especially for a small district like Hatfield. Sometimes it's very difficult to look at these programs that the state and the federal government want to institute that they think are going to make our district better when we just don't have the capacity to deal with these things, either financially or personnel-wise. So you have to cull through things, and so we have quite a bit of work. I was going through some past meeting packets in preparing for this meeting, and it amazes me the work that we do and what we have to deal with on a monthly basis.
Mike, you bring up a kind of an interesting point. Shared with everyone that it's the growth and the responsibility, I guess, of the school committee is significant over the years, and you're getting involved with more and more red tape, if you will. It brings to mind a question that has, on occasion, been the issue here in Hatfield, and a potential solution to that has been offered from time to time, is for Hatfield to regionalize or somehow to collaborate at an administrative level on some sort of a sharing basis with other school districts. Any thoughts on that?
A few years ago, before I ran for school committee initially, I was on another study committee where there was, at the time, the state ed department and the governor were very interested in decreasing the number of school districts in the state. And primarily, when the information came out, it wasn't really based on making education better for the students, but primarily reducing the number of districts so that the workload would flow better at the state level. So So since that time, the whole regionalization and collaboration idea has kind of gone back into the woodwork. Personally, I think the best thing to look at is collaboration rather than regionalization. Again, 3 or 4 years ago when we had this committee, we interviewed a number of schools in the area. Frontier, Northampton, Hopkins, and there was interest from these districts based on various components that we had, but no one really wanted the whole pie.
Right.
And so we thought that at the time, the report from the committee, it was called the Rice Committee, we thought at the time that it wouldn't be in Hatfield's best interest or the students' best interest to pursue any kind of regionalization plan. In the future, you don't know. But that was around the time we had the financial crash, and without the state government being able to really offer financial incentives, there wasn't really many takers relative to any of that discussion.
So what's a typical school committee meeting like? Now, there are 5 people on the school committee.
There are.
Usually at that meeting, I'm just going to start to answer that question a little bit because I've been there and done that, but years and years and years ago.
It probably hasn't changed much.
There's 5 people on the school committee. The superintendent is usually at that meeting.
Yes.
Are your 2 principals there?
They're depending on schedule and what's going on in their buildings. If they have something big in one of their buildings that's going on, some kind of project or something, they're there.
Right. And on average, you guys usually meet, once a month?
We meet once a month.
Okay, on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Okay,
and
here at Smith Academy?
Here at Smith Academy.
In the library?
The meetings start at 6:30 and usually finish
at midnight.
10 o'clock. Yeah, they can go on. We have discussed having 2 meetings a month, but right now we're just doing the one.
Yeah. All right, so what's a typical meeting? What's a typical meeting like? I mean, obviously there's an agenda sent out. You've got all kinds of documents.
Yeah, we have an agenda. It's there's always a budget component.
Okay.
We look at where we are with the current fiscal year budget.
Yeah.
We look at planning for the future. A lot of times there's some kind of capital planning discussion. There's some kind of capital planning issue that comes up. Mm-hmm. There's policy, anything from, there's new school lunch regs coming from the federal government. So we've been dealing with that for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So there's policy issues like that. There's it could be student handbook issues, dress code policies. It could be just there's been a lot of bullying policy coming from the state
right.
ever since the everything that happened in
South
Hadley.
Hadley.
Yeah. A lot of bullying stuff.
Right. Sure.
So it's a lot of administration, it's a lot of discussion, a lot of different, it's very varied, there's a lot of different topics. The superintendent always gives a report, and the principals, if they're not in the room, they have provided us with written reports.
All right, now is it typical in terms of dealing with an issue that the superintendent enacts some sort of a discussion over an issue, and then the school committee discusses it kind of with him, and then ultimately he makes a decision? Or is the decision the school committee's decision? What delineates?
It depends on what he brings
that
to
issue?
us. Yeah.
Okay.
If it's usually we make the decisions.
Okay.
There's some issues that the school committee members will say, you go ahead, Mr. Robert, and make that decision. But for the most part, motion is called, we'll have discussion, and then we'll vote the motion.
Okay.
So for the most part, we're making the decisions.
And is that pertain to personnel as well?
Personnel on the teacher level and support level, usually he makes a lot of those decisions.
Okay.
The hiring and firing, but we're always informed.
You're involved in the discussion.
We're always involved in the discussion. Okay. We're always involved. We get resumes to review.
Sure.
For example, they just hired a new math teacher because we're adding math programs and a pre-engineering program here in the high school. So the math teacher interviews were quite substantial. They actually had the candidates come in for a day and teach.
Oh, excellent.
So that was and they actually hired a gentleman who is a former teacher at Deerfield Academy, actually. Wow. He went to Williams College. He has a PhD in physics from Michigan.
Wow.
So sounds like I haven't had the opportunity to meet him yet, but sounds like a very, very powerful guy.
Sounds like someone I should be teaching at the college level.
Well, it sounds like
we're fortunate to have
sounds
him.
like we grabbed a great guy.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Yeah. So in your mind, Mike, at this point, what would you say in terms of what's on the plate of the school committee? What are the top 2 or 3 issues that you're dealing with right now?
The big thing for the school committee that we're dealing with is, it's always budget, and also we've instituted a fairly substantial capital improvement plan, and we actually hired an outside group that has worked with Granby and with South Hadley and with, I think, Hopkins to come in and do a review of all the 2 buildings. All the fields, and put together. We don't have numbers yet, but we have a plan, and we don't have a timeline on the plan yet either. But so that was a big project, and that's not completed yet, but that was a big project. We've also. Do you have
any idea when what the timeline is for at least completion of the
study
of the plan? Yeah.
Probably in June. We should have that probably wrapped up in June.
Okay. And will that, not to divert into that specifically, but just to spend a couple of minutes on it, will that be something that will be shared with the community?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. How will that happen? Do you have any idea?
I don't know yet.
You're just one member of 5. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if John wants to do a presentation. We have a subcommittee that's Brian and myself, and we've been working on this. So I don't know if John's going to want to have some kind of presentation.
Yeah.
We have an annual budget presentation. He did a very nice PowerPoint presentation, and there was 5 of us in the room, and the community was invited. It was open to the community, but nobody took advantage of coming. But
right.
He did a very good PowerPoint presentation, went over the whole budget. So I would assume that there would be something along similar.
Right. Are those, just curious, that budget meeting, was it taped? I mean, do you guys tape?
No, we don't tape. We haven't had cable access in our meetings. I've never had cable access in a meeting. So.
I would think that would be a logical thing to do, so as to be able to communicate, so people at least reactively could see it as opposed to proactively attending a meeting. I don't know if the school committee is going to.
I don't know if everyone was comfortable with it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well, again, that's a committee decision for sure. So, can you speak at all to some specific accomplishments over the course of let's use the last 3 years? Either you personally on the board that you've achieved, or the board itself. What are some of the things that you can say? Yeah, we did this, we did that, we did this over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. Well, either in terms of some of it may be budget related, some of it may be although this is budget related, but instructional as opposed to capital. Those kinds of.
No, I think since I've been on the committee, our Probably our best accomplishment was hiring John Robert. John has turned out to be, I think, a very, very good superintendent. He came in as an assistant superintendent. More, his strength was really on the SPED side, and he's
SPED meaning special ed.
Special ed,
Okay.
and he's brought a lot to the table. He's helped the whole district with special ed. He actually is performing the role of special ed director as well as the superintendent's job. So he's brought a lot to the table with special ed, and he's really grown and matured into the superintendent's position. And I think that's been, since I've been on the board, I think that's been one of our best accomplishments. Yeah. And I think while I wasn't directly involved with it, the hiring of Stefan, the new principal, has also been a very, very good.
Principal of Smith Academy here.
The principal here at Smith Academy. Yes, guy's very dynamic. The students really like him. He has a real forward view. He's always trying to improve programs. Yeah, he's always trying to do more for the students, and I think the faculty likes him, and so that's, I think, as well, two very good decisions that came out of the school committee.
Okay. So you've talked a little bit about planning. Does the school department at this point have a long-range plan, a 3-year plan, or a 4-year plan, or a 5-year plan, or however you want to call it? Yeah. Dealing with some of the things that you'd like to achieve, and how and when.
Long-range capital plan.
Well, either capital I would assume is part of it, and also instructional and programmatical. One
of the plans is, we have all kinds of plans. We have technology plans, we have capital improvement plans, we have instructional plans. We have one of the big things that on the instructional side has been to mate the curriculum from the elementary school to the middle school to the high school.
Right.
That has been, they've been working on that for most of 2011 and into 2012. And by next year, they should be very close to having that done. So that a math class that you take in 6th grade, for example, 5th, 6th grade, will flow right into the 7th and 8th grade math, which will then flow into the high school math. So that's, updating those curriculums has been very important. And we think we'll see, the MCAS, the kids, the students here do very well in the MCAS. We think they're going to do even better with that, with that new curriculum.
Right. Now, how about are you growing the curriculum at all in terms of additional offerings?
Well, as I said, with the hiring of this new math teacher, we're going to be offering a statistics course. We're going to be offering a pre-engineering course. I think he's going up another level in calculus. So, and I'm sure at some point with his background in physics, something will be happening. With
so that sounds like there's growth happening in the AP advanced placement kinds of courses on the math level. How about another?
There's growth happening definitely in the math and sciences.
Yeah.
STEM.
Yeah.
STEM is very big right now, and colleges are looking for a minimum of 4 years of math to accept students, and we're trying to reach those requirements. So, the students have opportunities for independent study projects. There's honors courses. There's virtual high school, which is an online program. But again, we're a small school, and you run into capacity problems.
Right.
We're a small district.
Right.
So
maybe there's a potential for some sort of collaboration in that area. but
Perhaps.
I don't know.
I think we have to look, you know,
Yeah.
you can't be close to anything. You have to want to look at everything that's out there.
Right. So, you know, in your mind, Mike, as you look back over the last 3 years, and I know things tend to, at that level, be very deliberate, and deliberate kinds of things end up, you know, addressing different issues on a slower basis than usual. I mean, has there been any kind of concern or disappointment on your part personally with the pace of things being done, or is that something you're just, you know, you tend to be comfortable with?
No, initially it did seem that things did go in kind of a. It was difficult, I think, initially getting used to the way the school committee works.
Right.
But once you're in there for a while and you understand the way things are looked at and the way things work, then you understand how things work and how they go. And I mean, public education is different than other experiences that I've had. So
right.
It's kind of it was new. It was a learning curve, definitely.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's things like that always are. So, if you get reelected, it'll be your second term on the school committee. You know, if you had your druthers, you know, which of the issues that are outstanding at this point would you kind of be pressing for as being the ones that are the top priority, and you'd like to have them addressed sooner rather than later?
Well, I'm glad that we're doing the capital plan. I don't want to see this building, you know, get run down and then end
Right.
up with a huge project. I'd rather take care of things.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the solar project get underway here at this building. We received a grant for that to do some study to get the heating and cooling system back, the solar geothermal system. I'd like to see that happen. But that is going to entail some work with the roof. So that's in the long range plan. I'd like to see something happen at the elementary school with solar. When I have to sign warrants every month and get the electric bills and the gas bills,
Sure.
you know, it's very expensive. And when you know there's an alternative that is worked in the past,
Right.
and that money could be going into programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then
Right.
it's really you know, it's hard.
Yep.
So
Yeah. So let's talk quickly about the budget, the school committee budget. What are we looking at this year? It's about $4 million or something like that.
It's the overall budget is 4.5 million. The school department, out of the school choice funds, put in $400,000. Local appropriation, 3.8 million, and in other sources, 516 or 517,000. So it is an increase. It's a small increase, 1.2% increase over last year.
From taxation.
Yeah,
Right.
from last year.
Okay. And how about when you add it? I'm just curious. When you add them all together, as you just did, I think you said
4.5. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that compare to last year? Or don't you have that number?
I don't have that number. Well, last year, I know school choice money that went in was probably 330,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we bumped up to 371. So it's an increase.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an overall increase.
Yeah.
And we're going to be going into, it's been 3 years already almost. So the teacher contract negotiations will be starting next spring again.
Okay.
So last time around we were able to kind of hold the line. So we'll see how that turns out this year.
It's always a challenge.
Always, yeah.
Yet an opportunity as well,
Yeah.
if you were to look at that. I think we've kind of, you've kind of gotten into it a little bit, and I guess I'd be a little remiss if I didn't bring up the issue of school choice and the school choice funds that the school committee is overseeing at this point. There's 140 some odd students coming into Hatfield from outside of town that are going to school here.
I believe it's 125.
It's 125, yeah.
Yeah.
And at $5,000 a student for I guess the equivalent of tuition. It's a substantial amount of funds that are coming into the community
It
every
is.
year.
It's a big chunk.
And that's been on the increase over the last several years. And the last time I took a look at the numbers, I think it was in March, it was like $1.3 million in the school choice account. Now, you guys have already said that you're taking $400,000 or so out of that, and you're going to help offset the community's contribution to the school budget, if you will, from taxation. But nevertheless, that fund continues to grow. I'm assuming that fund is probably a target for at least some of the funding for that capital plan that you guys have talked about.
It very much is.
Yeah, could you just share any of that, or your philosophy?
Well, I think that, for example, the roof on this building is going to need to be replaced soon.
Right.
It's 16 or 17 years old. With
There's a few thousand square feet up there.
Right, with the square footage up there, it's going to need to be replaced. The other issue that came up when the company did the study of the buildings is all these windows are going to need to be replaced at some point. So, there's plenty of projects, and again, we'll be applying for money from the state building assistance as well.
Sure.
And any other grant money that's available out there. But, a number of 1.3 sounds like a lot, but in the building, it can go very quickly.
Absolutely.
And then also, in the last few years, I mean, the elementary school they have the bulk of the choice students come in there, and they only had 6 openings for this year, for next year. We've had an increase in students, our own residential students, as well as interest in Hatfield Elementary School. There are more spaces here, and they're advertising, and they're
at Smith Academy.
Here at Smith Academy, both in the middle school and the high school. And there's been quite a few students that have visited. I know my daughter has said that in her seventh grade class for 8th grade next year, she's had at least 5 students come in for the day to shadow, to check out the school. So everyone has to remember that you get the school choice money, but things can turn, and you can have that money today, you can have that cash flow, that income today, and then something can change, and tomorrow we won't have it. And then the alternative would be cut programs or ask the community for more money. So I think for what we're doing here now, and the board's pretty conservative. I know I'm very conservative, and I don't like to spend, but you have to spend. You have to keep things up.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think the issue is or within the community. The fact that that fund, if you will, and those monies are are there. It's the issue of how are they going to be used? Is there a plan for that money at some point?
Well,
and I think you guys sound like you're working on that
We're working
plan.
on the plan.
Yeah.
We're trying to develop that plan.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, I mean, for example, we did the bleachers in the gym.
Right.
That was a pretty big chunk of money. We're going to do lockers. All the lockers need to be replaced.
Okay.
More flooring needs to get done. As I said, windows need to get done.
Yep.
And those are relatively small things. There's things in the kitchen that need to get done, but all these small things, you know, you can go through 100,000 very quickly.
Absolutely.
We did a computer lab over, and we had a very nice help from the trustees on that. They pitched in a large chunk of money. So, you know, you have to manage things and do your due diligence and.
Right. Well, I think that, you know, that the fact that you're working on that capital plan and it's about ready to be completed. I mean, I think that will show the community, you know, what's in store for capital planning, capital outlays, if you will, over the course of the next several years. And I assume as part of that plan, there'll be, you know, this is how we intend on funding those things. You know, we'll look at grants and we'll look at, you know, this and that, and we'll look at school choice funds and whatever. But I think that, you know, that's the kind of thing that makes sense to do.
Yeah, and a lot of that'll get talked over in capital planning and.
Yeah. Yep.
You
So,
know.
Mike, any you know, anything else you'd like to share with the people who are looking as far as your candidacy is concerned? Do you have a final statement you'd like to make, or
No,
you want to add anything that we haven't talked about?
No, you know, there's so much. Like I said, when I was reviewing all my meeting notes, there's so much going on. It's pretty amazing how much gets done in a month, and you know what the administration does to keep everything in this district running smoothly. No, I would just like to. You know, I've been a lifelong resident here, and a lot of people know me, and hopefully you trust me with your decision making. As I said, I worked on the elementary school project, and we were very successful with that. We had a great team. I think we have a relatively good, you know, we have a strong school committee. We have a great team there, and you know, I'd appreciate your support, like another 3 years as a member of the school committee.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Again, Mike Poshik, one of 3 candidates for 2 positions on the school committee. And unfortunately, the other 2 candidates passed up participating in the show this evening. Would have been nice to have had them here to participate in the discussion. But at least now you hopefully know a little bit more about Michael Poshik, and as I said earlier, voting day is May 15th on Tuesday, just about all day, to Town Hall. So please do exercise your right to vote and participate in this magnificent democracy of ours. So without any further ado, I guess I'll call it a show. This is one of 2 candidacy shows that we're doing this evening. We will do one on the assessors as well. So be sure to see if you can pick up on that one also. These shows will be broadcast in Channel 15 between now and Election Day on the 15th. And Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 9 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, and then on Sunday afternoon. So look to Channel 15's bulletin board, and you'll find out when these things are going to be shown specifically. So for Hatfield Currents, I'm Mike Cahill. Thanks for watching. Watch yourself, Hatfield.